So we're moving forward now, and we have another Ask Father Tony, and we're branching out here, and we have a guest with us today. So we've been blessed many times with our parish, with seminarians coming and spending some time here and learning from our parish. And the month of August, we've had Ryan Black, who is a seminarian from the Diocese of Paisley in Scotland. So he's been here reminding me how much I've lost my accent, which is a terrible thing. But anyway, so I wanted to just have Ryan share some things. He had the great privilege of twice in a year meeting Pope Francis. And so he's been telling me all about that. It's just so inspiring. I wanted him to share it with you. So Ryan, welcome. Why don't you say a little bit about yourself and then just share what has happened.
Okay, so hello, my name is Ryan Black and I'm a seminarian, as Father Tony said, for the Diocese of Paisley in Scotland. I'm now going into my third year of theological studies at the Pontifical Gregorian University in Rome. And as Father Tony said, I've been here for the month of August in Our Lady of the Lake in Mound, seeing how things are done here in the States and getting some new experiences to bring home. And see what we can bring and introduce to the church back home, and what works and what's some good ideas we could introduce there. Also, as Father Tony said, I'm talking to you today about my first meeting is this episode of Ask Father Tony, my first meeting with the Holy Father, Pope Francis. And so that was last year, April 2016. I was one of the many members of the Pontifical Scots College community in Rome who was invited to the Apostolic Palace for a private audience with Pope Francis. And the reason we were invited was because last year we celebrated 400 years since our foundation as a seminary. Now, we were founded 16 years previous in the year 1600, but for the first 16 years of our history, it was all about Catholic education because we couldn't receive it back home during the Reformation. So we met Pope Francis, and we went along to the Apostolic Palace with our two archbishops, Archbishop Tartaglia and Archbishop Cushley, and it was like the most fantastic day. I mean, we all got dressed up in the traditional Scots College cassocks, the purple cassock with the red fascia, the band that goes round, and it had been a long time since the Scots College seminarians had been out in town with the cassocks on. We travelled down to the Apostolic Palace. We travelled through the bronze door, which is the really cool, huge door in the Vatican that if you've ever been in St. Peter's Square and you look up to the right as you're entering the Basilica, there's a huge door with a Swiss guard always on duty. He was there. We walked by him. We got the salute from him, which was really cool. We got some photos in the foyer past the bronze door. And then we were shown up through a whole range of waiting chambers in the Apostolic Palace. Some really beautiful rooms. Salutes from the Swiss guards all the way through, up a ride in a mahogany elevator, which was really cool. And then we sat and waited for the Holy Father. We all had a copy of what he was going to say to us in English, if we didn't follow the Italian. And then he just took us by surprise. We were all kind of talking and whispering, and all of a sudden Pope Francis walked in, and it was absolutely amazing. We stood up, gave him a round of applause. He was full of smiles, which was fantastic. And then he gave us a fantastic message about the church in Scotland now and tied it into our history of the Scots College. He told us how the college was founded 400 years earlier on the blood of the martyr St. John Ogilvie, who was a Scottish Jesuit priest. He was arrested and hanged in Glasgow because he was caught celebrating Mass clandestinely. He was betrayed, and so he was killed in Glasgow. His martyrdom was the inspiration for the students at the Scots College to take the mission oath and return to Scotland as priests. So Pope Francis told us that if we have the same love for our country of Scotland, and if we have the same love for the faith that those first 16 students did, then we too must be willing to face martyrdom just as they were. Now obviously in Scotland, thank God, we're not at the stage where we risk our lives celebrating Mass or attending Mass, but we are, Pope Francis reminded us, called to give our own lives up every single day for Christ and his church. There's a real hostility to the gospel, which he spoke about. Pope Francis mentioned it, and that's the society we're in. But it was a great inspiration for us, 20 odd students and the rector and the archbishops of Scotland in the Apostolic Palace listening to Pope Francis, I could talk about that day for weeks. We've only got 4 or 5 minutes, so we'll leave it there, and I think Father Tony wants to tell you something else.
Yeah, thanks Ryan, that was fantastic. What a blessing to meet Pope Francis. So this is going to be part 1. Part 2 we'll talk about the second time you met Pope Francis, so look forward to that.